Oh, snap!
The world is finally waking up to the crap that's baked into and sprayed on kibble dog food. No longer can commercial pet food manufacturers fool us with pretty pictures and false promises. This is the raw dog food truth. The view and opinions expressed on this podcast are not intended to replace medical advice. Before starting any raw diet, do research, ask lots of questions, and consult your vet. Well, hello, Raw Feeders. I'm Dee Dee Mercer-Moffat. I'm CEO of Raw Dog Food and Company, where your pet's health is our business. And we're friends like my friend Brian, our nutritionist extraordinaire. He didn't let friends feed kibble. Although I'm sure, Brian, when you talk to people, because you do these consults, the people are still trying to give their dogs kibble because they think it's good for them. I mean, look, I don't think that any pet parent, I bet you would agree with me, no pet parent is trying to kill their dog. They just do it. They do it unknowingly. I mean, they're not trying.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were all there at some point, so it's just, it's knowing better and then doing better. It's like, once you gotta make some changes. I was just talking with a customer today who she brought up pet food, and that was her turning point, and that was also my turning point. I watched that documentary and I knew that I had to make some changes. I was sick to my stomach after watching that documentary, and
no one talks about that anymore.
Well,
go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, it's pretty old. I mean, I know there was some talk of doing a follow-up. The same guy who did the original was going to do a follow-up, but I don't know where that's at or what happened to it. But it's still relevant. And I encourage pet parents to watch it, but I will tell them that if they're going to watch it, they better be prepared to make some changes. Because I don't think you can get that kind of information and then continue to do what you're doing. Because like I said, it was mind-blowing to me, and I felt bad. I literally, no joke, I rounded up all my dogs and I sat them down in the living room and I apologized to them.
I love it. I love it. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm so sorry.
I looked him in the eye and I was like, I had no idea. I didn't know that I was doing that to you guys.
I think there may be more apologies coming down the pike towards people. I was, I don't know if Bobby Kennedy is ever going to get over to the point of looking at, the pharmaceuticals that go into dogs. I certainly would hope so. Now, I will tell you this, that Dr. Jasek will be speaking for the Weston A. Price Institute coming up in October. And, there are a bunch of kind of heavy hitters there. And she will be talking about vaccines, right? So vaccines is coming to the forefront. Whatever side you're going to line up on, because I still hear people saying, oh, vaccines save lives. But I don't know. Did I send you? There was a video where a vet was actually in court trying to stand up for the pets and talking about, these vaccines that he's saying that are really damaging to them. So I'm hoping that comes out. Another thing that we wanted to talk about today is a little update on the Keto Pet Hills lawsuit. Now, I was reading some stuff on Reddit that they were like, oh, this is such BS. You know, these boutique pet food places are just mad because now they've been found out that their food causes DCM. I was like, oh my gosh. Do people just love to show their stupidity when they open their mouth like that? I mean,
Yeah.
uh, so anyway, what came out from the Freedom of Information Act, if these people would ever look any further, is that it was all slanted. It was never a real investigation. They were never really worried that dogs had DCM, and some dogs may have dilated cardiomyopathy, but it's certainly not from a lack of grains in their diet.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was a real investigation. I think the FDA was concerned, but the reason that they were concerned was because they were getting cherry-picked data. You know, every case of a dog that was diagnosed with DCM, if they were eating something other than a Hills, a Purina, or a Mars product, that information was forwarded to the FDA. And so, I mean, what was the FDA supposed to do when they were sitting there and they're like, okay, we've got, you know, I don't know how many cases in front of us, but 100% of them all point to grain-free food. I mean, they made the obvious conclusion that there must be some correlation. And that was, you know, that was that's the crux of the lawsuit because you're manipulating data and you're lying to the government for the purposes of making money. Which is it's the very definition of fraud. And and so, earlier this year, when I heard that the lawsuit had been dismissed, um, I was very surprised because the evidence appeared to be pretty damning, at least enough to, warrant a trial and an investigation and an opportunity for, um, people to hear both sides and make a decision. So, um, but luckily we found out that it was not dismissed. Um, the court made a preliminary ruling, which I guess did dismiss the lawsuit. It closed it. But all it did was it moved it just to the appellate. It was immediately appealed because the decision that was made by the court was that if you could not prove that grain-free diets did not cause DCM, then it was okay for Hills to claim that it did.
How's that work?
Exactly. That's why it immediately went into an appellate court because that goes against, according to Daniel from Keto Pet, that goes against every ruling that's ever been handed down in the history of this country. Um, I think it's kind of like, Dee Dee, if you can't prove to me that you didn't murder somebody, then I can say that you did. And, and you can face all the consequences that come with that accusation. Um, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So, so the lawsuit's back in the appellate court, and Daniel expects it's probably going to have to be settled by the Supreme Court. I don't know if that's the federal Supreme Court or the state Supreme Court, but um, he's in it for the long haul. He called it a generational case, so I don't know if that's indicative of how long it's going to take to actually get some sort of resolution. But you know, thank goodness. hats off to him for, fighting and keeping up this fight. Because I think it's important. I mean, regardless of whether he wins or loses,
Hmm.
it's important to send a message that, your bullying's not going to be tolerated.
Well, it's been tolerated for a very, very, very long time. And, you know, I don't think the bullying's going away, Brian. I just don't, and, you know what's crazy to me? I don't know if you saw this on the news. They are talking about all of these different ingredients that are being pulled out of food because they're not good for us. And I'm like, it was on the news. There was like a list, like all these companies are getting on board. We're getting rid of dye. We're getting rid of this. We're getting rid of that. So what they're saying is, yeah, we've been putting crap in your food, stuff that we know is not really good for you. Oh, but now we're going to pull it out because we want to get on the make America healthy again bandwagon. And I'm like, you big bunch of losers. You knew that this stuff was not good for us. You knew it was toxic. You knew it was trash, but you put it in there anyway. And so now we're supposed to give you kudos because you're taking it out. I, I'm, I'm,
Well, where
I'm,
are those ingredients? Um, there, there's people that make a lot of money from those ingredients.
yeah,
They're not just going to fold up and say, "Ah, we don't need to be paid for this stuff anymore." That stuff's going to go in pet food, you know? I mean, that's kind of been the history of pet food anyways, is, if it can't be used anywhere else, give it to the pet food industry because they'll just throw it in the grinder and grind it up with the rest of the crap and feed it to the pets. Um, and eventually the pet parents will, they'll raise a ruckus, and then maybe we'll get rid of it, from the pet industry as well. But that'll be 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So plenty of time to make some money, and then we'll deal with it when we have to. But I think that I don't think that I'll be here when it finally comes to roost. But I think eventually people will get smart. The I just don't think the story can hold up. Um, just like what we talked about last week, and the whole idea that domestication has changed dogs' biology, um, and wolves thrive off of meat and bones, but not our dogs because of domestication. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. That's just not how things work. And things like that can last for a while, but people eventually say that this doesn't make any sense. And people are going to get to the point where I some people already are, but think about how many people do everything that their vet says, and their dog never gets better, probably gets worse, passes away, I mean, all of those things. I mean, at some point, people are going to be like, okay, I did everything you said that I was supposed to do, and none of it worked. I'm going to do something different with the next dog.
yeah.
um, but
I just have to, I just have to, I want to understand why people think that their dogs need rice,
oats, lentils, um, the beans, those sort of things, right? Why do they need wheat, rice, or corn? Why do they need wheat, rice, or corn? What
because
in the
they've
wild?
evolved.
To what? Eat crap? I mean, why would and you know what? They just can't let go of this. My dog eats a bland diet, chicken and rice thing. I'm like, you could feed him chicken, but let's get rid of the rice. Okay. Let's get rid of the why do we feed rice? We don't need that. We don't need it. Um, and so I just can't understand why you know you would feed even grains or even grain free. Oh, so grain free kibble. Okay, let's talk about grain free kibble. You know what it's got in it? Low quality starches, green peas, potatoes, sweet potatoes. All that stuff holds the kibbles together, has those
Mhm.
low quality proteins like soy peas, lentils, beans. They're high in starch and they add calories, guys, without any value. Okay, no value add there. They also have a lot of glyphosates. Okay, um, and so that's something that you don't want. Also, phytic acid, which is found in high levels in legumes, lentil, peas, potatoes, beets. Those are in grain-free food. So even if it says grain-free and it's a kibble, it's still crap most of the time because of the things I said. The phytic acid, the low quality proteins, the starches that are in there that do nothing for your dogs. And here's the thing, a true raw diet, guys, a true raw diet, a pure raw diet, meat, bones, organ, and fat. Meat, bones, organ, and fat. Maybe it's duck, turkey, chicken, beef, pork. I don't know, Brian. So I was one of my friends out here, they said, look, I went to your website and I was so confused. You have so many products. And we do. We have a ton of products. We are the Mexican restaurant menu of dog food, of grain-free, high value, high protein food. And but here, just start with two. Start with a turkey and a beef. Just start there. It's super easy. And then you can play with that as you go. But again, the debate is grain bad for dogs? Is DCM the issue? Well, DCM was just something that they had to throw out there. Um, so anyway, Keto Pets doing this lawsuit. Good for him. Good for Daniel. Gosh, I hope it just doesn't break him. But anyway, we gotta keep fighting the fight. Got to keep fighting the
Yeah,
fight.
yeah, we do. And there was something very significant that came out of um, the the lawsuit. And I don't know if, well, they haven't really had like a discovery, um, part of the lawsuit, but Daniel dug up a study,
Mm-hmm.
um, and this study was conducted um, between December of 2019 and August of 2021, and those dates are very significant. Um, the study involved 60 dogs over 18 months, which is, I think that makes it a pretty significant study.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, some people will look at 60 dogs and say, well, that's not very many, which, it's not, but it's better than the 8 dogs that make up an AFCO food trial. And those food trials, they bless all of the food that everybody feeds their dogs as complete and balanced for all life stages. So I think 60 dogs is, it's definitely better than most studies, but the 18 months is significant
Right.
because most studies don't go that long. Um, and the purpose of the study was to determine the effect of diet on dilated cardiomyopathy, aka DCM. Um, Specifically, the study was to establish a link between grain-free pet foods and DCM. Um, at the study's conclusion, it was found that there were no changes in cardiac function with a grain-free diet or a grain-inclusive diet, and taurine status was unaffected by diet. So the goal of the study was to prove that grain-free diets cause DCM. The study failed to prove that. So what happened to the study? It just didn't get published. And that is, that's something that pet parents should really be aware of. That sort of manipulation um, of science. Everybody's like, show me the study. Studies are important. Study this, study that. It's like, you do realize that if they don't like the outcome of a study, nobody says they have to publish it. And they can just go back and redo it, change the parameters, get the results they want, and then they publish it. Um, so this one, didn't get published, got completed in 2021, didn't get published until this past June in 2025. The study got published in the Journal of Animal Medicine, online only. So it wasn't put into the journals that get sent to the vets or anything like that. It was just a pretty obscure online, thing up in Canada. Um, and Daniel's reasoning on why it was released was because the study was conducted by none other than Purina, or not, I'm not Purina, Hills. And earlier, when I told you the dates, December 2019 to August of 2021, what was going on right in between those dates? Lisa Freeman was funneling tainted data to the FDA, trying to establish a link between grain-free diets and DCM.
Oh, Lisa Freeman. And wait a minute, Brian, what was the award that Dr. Freeman got after
Oh
she
gosh,
did all of this kind of underhanded stuff? It was awarded
I
like
I can't remember the
superior.
exact name of it, but it was something in integrity and science.
Yes.
So,
You're just like, oh my goodness, integrity up my sphincter. Come on, Lisa Freeman, you
so
big fat liar.
so yeah, so while she is, and her relationship with Hills has been well documented, and she may not be a direct employee of Hills, but she is influenced by them. Um, and and she's definitely benefited from, whether it's, funding research or facilities there at Tufts University. I mean, um, but yeah, she's funneling bad data to the FDA, and meanwhile, Hills is conducting a study, and the study comes out and says, exactly opposite of what they're telling the FDA. So that leads one to ask, why on earth would they let this study get published in 2025?
Right? Why would they?
And and Daniel's theory is because it would have gotten discovered during the lawsuit. The lawyers would have found it, and they would have, presented it to the court, and it would have looked worse coming up in court than being out there now. And so
So
that's why they released it. If this lawsuit wasn't going on, they would have never published that study. They would have just left it out there.
do you think that they're even a smidge concerned about this lawsuit? I mean, it's not as if it's on front page of the, news, right? And they've got billions and billions of dollars. Most pet parents aren't going to hear about it. Um, it's incredible. It really is incredible, but I think it does speak to, Brian, what we've been saying for a very long time, that you don't have to have a study, actually, to see with your own eyes that kibble or cooked food is not ever going to bring the results, never going to bring the receipts of superior health that you're looking for in your pets. Why? Because it's not species appropriate. It's not what they were created to eat. And this whole thing that they've evolved to eat crap. Have we evolved to eat crap? Who believes that? Raise their hand. It's better for us. There are less, there's not as much inflammation. There's not as many allergies when we eat processed foods. Raise your hand. Come on. But we can tell ourselves a whole different story in the pet world. And I contend, Brian, it's because people want convenience. And I'll tell you why I say this. So I was reading some of this information on Reddit, and 3 months ago, here was a question that was asked. I'm looking for a healthy, dry food for a cat with heart disease. I'm looking for a healthy, dry food for cat with heart disease. This cat has heart murmurs, and they said that this cat probably has DCM. And they've been doing some research. It says, and the taurine in cat food is what's important for their heart. But here's what they say: it can be found in grains, which is why the vet recommended it. Okay, just do a search, folks. Can we do a search that asks, is there taurine in grains? And it says no, grains do not contain taurine. Taurine is an amino acid found primarily in animal products like meat, fish, and dairy. And it may be true that dogs, not cats, guys, dogs can synthesize some, a little, a pinch, a smidge of taurine from this combination of cysteine and methionine, which is found in plants. Grains themselves do not provide taurine. So if we got a cat, Brian, with the heart problem, we're not going to feed them dry food. Okay. Last time I saw it, the mice and birds and squirrels and snakes, they're not kibble based.
No, and I mean, and for cats, I mean, dry food, I mean, we don't want to be feeding our dogs dry kibble, but they're going to last a lot longer on that than a cat is. Dry kibble for a cat is a death sentence, because they won't drink. Anybody who's ever had a cat, tell me, how many times do you go to the water bowl and be like, oh, wow, that's empty. I better fill it up.
Right?
I mean, you're going to their water bowl and you're like, well, I better dump that out and put some fresh water in there. It's been sitting there for a couple days. I mean, they won't drink. They instinctually they get their moisture from their food. That's what that's what they're looking for. Somebody once told me that if you observed big cats in the wild, that you would never see them like at a river or a stream or a lake drinking water. That it just doesn't happen. They they get all of their hydration from their food. Um, which cats like that, they're going to be getting the blood, which is that's what they're going to be using for the hydration. Um, but yeah, you've got to give your cat food with moisture, um, because otherwise, they're in a constant state of dehydration. Um, and coincidentally, what's the number one issue with cats in this country is kidney disease.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a cat that's got kidney problems. Well, yeah, because they're in a constant state of dehydration from their food. So,
Here's the
yeah.
thing. Cats absolutely need taurine. And that taurine is an amino acid, and they cannot get it from their bodies. They have to have it in their diet. And if they don't, guys, if they don't, they're going to have problems with their heart. It's going to cause heart disease. I'm sure that cats probably have a bigger prevalence of DCM than any dog, right? So DCM is a condition where the heart muscle weakens and enlarges, and then it enlarges. Goodness, I can't say that word. Also, blindness. Taurine is crucial for the health of the cells in the retina. They can have reproductive problems, weakened immune system, digestive issues. How many cats do you know that just go blah blah blah? They're constantly sick. And I actually had a physical therapist that uh, oh, God bless her. I mean, both of her cats had these problems, and I just said it is their food. And she kept taking them to the vet, and they kept putting them on hydrolyzed protein and all of this kind of stuff. And I said, it is their food. It's their food. Take them off the dry food, put them on a raw based diet. But I don't know that people actually will do it. And they just kept paying at the wazoo. And I don't think these cats got very well. I don't think they healed, you know?
Yeah, it's critical for cats, and um, and I get it. I mean, cats are notoriously difficult to, once you fed them kibble, getting them off of that is, um, it's like a drug addict, a person addicted to drugs. Like
Yeah.
trying to break that is very, very difficult. Um, they're cats are imprint eaters. And so whatever they're fed first, that's what they identify as food. And everything else is poison in their mind. Um, so, whatever they're given, at birth, as soon as they come off of, mom, that's what they're going to look at as food. So, um, you're gonna have a heck of a time transitioning them, but you got to get them off of um, the dry food, and something with some moisture in it, um, and uh, and it's got to be, you know we talk about species appropriate for dogs all the time. It's, for cats it's even more critical. um, you know
It
the
is.
whole the omnivore carnivore argument and debate that goes on in dogs, you know, luckily for the most part, most people understand that cats are true carnivores, obligate carnivores. Um, they have to have meat, bones, and organs. Um,
And I'm not
but
sure why you think that those really, really pointy, very sharp teeth can't break those bones. I'm like, yeah, they're like little nails, little pins and needles. I mean, cats, I mean, come on, guys, they can really rip, shred, and tear. Really, really rip, shred, and tear. And there's such confusion, because we don't say raw dog food and company. I mean, raw dog food and cat company. Um, but it's real simple, and it's super simple. Going back to Dr. Ian Billinghurst, making it simple for cats. And I would even contend, let me know what you think about this, Brian, but I would even contend that our HVMs, okay, even the ones with the veggies that we have in them, is so low that it probably would not bother the cats. Um, but we have enough products that you don't have to feed the ones with the veggies, okay? And they're actually not called HVMs anymore. They're called recipes, right?
recipes, yep.
Yeah. And so what do you think about that comment? Do you think that a cat could, because it's like 7%,
Yeah,
and
I
it's not
mean,
even all veggies. It's just not that
yeah,
much.
cats have zero need for carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
But just like dogs, they can get some of the same benefits from the fiber aspect, and especially like fermented veggies and things like that. um, they can get the same benefits. So yeah, I tell people all the time, if your cat will eat the recipes, then have at it. But if they don't want to eat the recipes, it's not the food, it's probably the veggies. And give them one of the mixes and see how that goes. Because while they can have some fruits and veggies and it's not going to hurt them, um, they may not prefer them. And if they don't like it, that like the same goes for the trite blends. Dogs love the trite because the stinkier the better. Something stinks, a cat's not going to go near it. Um, so like the trite blends, I mean, I have heard of some cats that like trite, but for the most part, they're probably not going to like those. Um, so, if all you have is the recipe, if that's what you're feeding your dog and you want to try it with your cat, yeah, give it a try. See if they eat it. But if they don't, then maybe try one that doesn't. And Dr. Billinghurst he's talked about fruits and veggies for cats, and he's all for it. Um,
Well, look,
he's big on the fermented veggies nowadays. Um, and so, he thinks there's benefit for um, for everybody with a little bit of fermented veggies and things like that. So, um, but yeah, if customers are looking, if they're going to our website and they're looking for, is this okay for my cat or something good for my cat? I always tell people look at the mixes, because they don't have the fruits and veggies,
mhm.
and they all have added heart, which is going to give them just that much more taurine. Heart is, there's taurine in meat and fish and all those things, but it's highest in heart. And so those mixes are going to make it real easy because they've all got an extra 5%, heart ground up in there. So those are the best ones for the cats. Um, and all except maybe the beef and tripe mix. That's probably the only one that I wouldn't do with the cats. Um,
I always think, all right, if a cat has been on dry food and they've been taking in all of those carbs and all of that sugar, 7% of real food of a little plant food is probably not gonna it is not gonna bug them. But I like what you said. If the cats, because they're very discerning, right, and it's texture to them as well. But we can't starve out of cats. We want to make sure that we find them what they like. But guys, listen, if you know people that have their cats on dry food, ooh, that is not going to be good. That is not the way you want to go, right? That is like me saying, yeah, it is just perfectly fine for you to sit there every single night and eat a bag of Oreo cookies. And you're not going to have any repercussions from it. There's all types of repercussions from all the synthetic crap that's in there. It's in the kibble, right? It's in dry kibble, it's in dry cookies. And your cat will end up with some problems. So if you love your cat, you know, get them on a raw diet. Okay. Get all the crap out of it. Get them a high moisture food, the raw diet. It is species appropriate. We are so brainwashed in this kibble crap. It just drives me insane. Drives me insane. But, we're just doing what we can. But I got to tell you, we have barely scratched the surface. Barely scratched the surface. Somebody stopped me today because they see our truck, and they're like, well, I've been thinking that I'd get my dogs on it, but it's so expensive. I said, well, what kind of dogs do you have? Well, we have these little 5-pound, 5-pound dogs. And I was like, okay, it is not, it's not, I mean, I don't know what you're paying, but it is not expensive for little dogs. Now, Brian, you got 4 big dogs, and so that can cost some money, but still, I
I
just,
talked to a I talked to a lady today that's feeding a 320-pound Mastiff raw.
nice. 320-pound Mastiff, 320, wait a minute, 320 pounds?
She showed me a picture. I mean, that wasn't like 320 pounds of, that wasn't like 120 extra pounds or anything. Um,
How
yeah,
big was
they're
this Mastiff? Oh my gosh.
huge. But she's like, he's 9 years old and he's never been healthier. And, um, and a dog that big, I mean, I don't know, I don't know what the life expectancy is, but I know, I mean, 9 years old for a dog that big's got to be good. Um, but, um, but I was like, it's like, bless your heart for, you know, I mean, making that happen. I mean, that can't be easy. That, I mean, I don't even know.
That's 6 pounds, almost 7 pounds a day, six and a
Yeah.
half pounds a day. So times 30, that 100 and almost 200 pounds a month.
Yeah. I
God bless
mean,
her.
my
God
four
bless her.
my four dogs is almost, I mean, if you put their weights collectively together, it's almost 300 pounds. So, I mean, I guess I'm kind of right there with her, but I'm spreading that out over 4 dogs.
Yeah.
I guess that it makes me feel better, I think. Um, but yeah, the first thing I thought when she told me that was like, I thought about like the 5-pound dog people. And I'm like, come on, you know, this lady is feeding a 320-pound dog raw. You can feed your 5-pound, Yorkie, raw. I mean, we're talking, what do you need? 4 pounds a month.
Not
I mean,
much.
come on.
I think my
Um,
mom's 5-pound Schnorky. I think a 2-pound roll will last that dog, I think 8 days. I'm pretty sure 8 days. And
mhm.
yeah, so she needs like 8 pounds a month, right? 8 pounds a month. I mean, come on, nothing.
Yeah.
I can hardly ship that. But But we're in the health business, Brian. That's what we do. We're in the true health business. We feed our dogs as food. We see the results. Um, I think the ultimate test, folks, is looking at your dog's skin, his coat, his eyes, his teeth, his poop, his energy, and his personality, because all of those change for the better, for the better. And I would challenge any person, that says, I was feeding my dog raw and I saw zero benefit. I would just that I would have to say, well, I can't let me have your dog for a while. I just can't imagine that. Doesn't sound right.
Well, I would wonder what else they were feeding. Were they doing just totally raw, or were they doing like half and half, and um, different things like that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think you can do it without seeing, the changes, and the behavior one is huge. That was the first thing I noticed, was just, you know, how much calmer my dogs were. Um,
Right?
and I mean, it was, for me to notice that, I mean, it had to be significant. Um, and, and, people are always like, well, I don't want, I don't want a dog that just lies around and sleeps, and it's like, that's not the calmness that we're talking about. We're talking about a satiated, fulfilled, you know, dog, because, you know, believe it or not, what you feed them, I mean, eating is an enrichment activity. That's why we stress the bones all the time. Even though the bones are in the blend, we still like to see people, give your dog a duck foot, give them you know, a, um, a turkey neck, a couple times a week or something. Let them exercise, those instincts of rip tearing and shredding. Um, and because that's all contributing to their mental well-being. Um, but um, but yeah, and there's I'm seeing more and more trainers get on the raw train.
Well,
Um,
think about that, Brian. What we've seen is how much calmer, how much more focused, how much clarity a dog has. I mean, any trainer could be a step above another trainer if they just put the dog on a raw diet. That somebody would think they were an amazing trainer. They're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this kind of behavior change in my dog. Yeah, it's food. They can think. They're not
yeah.
anxious. They're not, bouncing off the walls. They're not trying to tear things up because they have so much sugar energy, right?
Hmm.
So, hey, listen, next week, Brian, can we talk about mushrooms? Right? Can we talk about the line of mushrooms that we have now here at Raw Dog Food and Company, and the power of mushrooms, and why we love them and why we recommend them, and kind of which ones you would recommend for what. But if you go over to our website, and we will have a button here pretty soon that you can just put in mushrooms, and then all the mushrooms will pop up. But which are, just real quick, which are some of the ones that we have that people can choose from?
Well, we have the turkey tail and the reishi, that we've always had, and then the immunity blend, which is a blend of, several different mushrooms, and then we've also brought in, I'm sorry, we've had turkey tail and chaga, and then we've also brought in lion's mane and reishi, as far as like the single mushrooms. And then we have some new blends. that we've brought in. And I really like the blends, because um, they address a lot of different, issues that pet parents, struggle with, whether it's inflammation, um, clarity, you know, um, cancer, aging, all those kind of things. It's almost like, name the ailment, there's a mushroom for that. It's Mushrooms are just really, a lot of research is coming out about mushrooms, and a lot of benefits are being discovered, around mushrooms. And you know, I talk to people all the time that for some reason I think people just feel better the more they add into their dog's bowl.
Hmm.
Which, it's not something that I really totally agree with, but look, if you're set on adding something to your dog's bowl, let's get some mushrooms in there.
Yeah.
Because it's real food, and it's not a supplement, and there's just, um, there's no side effects and there's no ill effects from using, natural foods like mushrooms. It's only benefit. So yeah, we can definitely talk about those, and um, they are they are currently live on the website if you want to go check those out now. And but we'll go over them and kind of describe what each of them are. But when it comes to mushrooms, rotate your mushrooms just like you do your blends. Um,
And some of those mushrooms are in liquid form and some are in powdered form, right?
mhm.
Now, and we'll talk about this more next week. So, if you have a question about which one is the best for your dog, all you have to do is either go into the chat, okay, because we do have a chat button on the website, or you can sign up for a nutritional consult totally free with Brian, and that is also on the website. So, pick your day and pick your time, and then you and Brian will get together, and that will be awesome. He will help you out. Okay. So get over to rawdogfoodandcompany.com. Remember, every Wednesday night, we have Yappy Hour. Starts at 4 p.m., runs to midnight, and everything from food to bones to supplements to treats is on sale. It's a great sale. It's a time for you to beat inflation, get more for your dog and your cat right here at rawdogfoodandcompany.com, where your pet's health is our business. And what, Brian?
Friends don't let friends feed kibble.
That's right. We'll see you guys soon, everybody. Bye bye.